Welcome, everyone, to another exciting week with our Mission Matters Twitter Spaces. Every single week, we put a dialogue together at 4 p.m. PST, 7 p.m. EST for all you East Coasters. This week's topic is how do you foster innovation in your company? This is going to be an interesting conversation just because there's been some recent events, especially on this platform, Twitter itself, with a new acquisition by, Elon Musk, who just acquired Twitter for $44 billion. I'm curious to see kind of what they're doing because it's a little bit more in the public eye. But, respectively, even in our companies, whether you're a startup or you're a bigger company, how do you develop that opportunity and how do you create a culture that's going to create changes and innovation in the company? So going to be an exciting dialogue coming up. For those of you that are just tuning in and this is the first time you're hearing about Mission Matters is a multimedia platform really focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, executives, experts, and enterprises. We amplify their stories to educate and inspire future generations. And on the back end, we also help amplify the stories through our thought leadership platform, which is our book publishing division, where we published over 250, almost 300 authors in a wide variety of books. We also have our podcast agency, Podcast Network, where we've launched well over a couple hundred different podcasts across the network. And then we also have our marketing and PR that we provide as well. And so with that, the way that these dialogues take place is we consider this more like a dinner conversation where we're at like a round table, just hanging out over dinner where we're going to ask a few questions and then, have everyone just trying to chime in and ask each other questions and, create an amazing conversation and dialogue that we'll be able to share once this is all done. So with that, Adam is just, I'm going to pass the baton here to Adam. He's just going to go around and have everyone just introduce themselves. So Adam, why don't you take the reins from here?
All right. Thank you, Chirag. And I'm excited to do another one of these. And as you said earlier, so that might get edited out, but our first Twitter space with the new ownership. So this will be interesting to maybe bring up as well. So Joanna, maybe if we want to just start with you in terms of just introducing yourself, please.
Yeah, so Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. We're a digital agency. We work not exclusively, but primarily with associations and nonprofits, and we use web, mobile, social, and virtual and hybrid meetings to help them increase membership and generate revenue.
Awesome. Thank you. And always great to have you, of course. Looking forward to catching up. And Bill, welcome.
Hey, everyone. Not quite as impressive as Joanna, but Bill Doran, the Chief Marketing Officer and Operational Officer of the Truck Accident Law Firm. Excited to be here.
Come on, Bill. Great to have you. I'm excited to get into today's topic and see what's going on with everyone. So I have some other questions that I do want to bring up and just some food for thought. But I think I do want to start with the whole Twitter thing just while we're at it, because I'll just be up front. I don't really know all the issues. I don't know all the angles and what's going on. Has anybody else been following this closely? Chirag, obviously chime in. I just haven't been. I've been out of the loop for the last, I've been doing interviews all day, put it that way, for the last couple of days. So what's going on? Chirago, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, absolutely. So in short, I'm not sure if it was a running joke or how it all started exactly, but basically Elon Musk proposed to acquire Twitter just because, Tesla and his other companies have been doing very well. And just given, I think, a lot of the free speech issues that he's been facing that I think that have been taking place, where a lot of accounts have been getting banned for, a variety of different reasons. I think that Elon essentially reached out to Twitter and basically told them that, he would move forward with an acquisition just because he had the financials for it. And then there was a lot of drama in between. I think there was a point where Musk asked Twitter to provide, during their due diligence process, just provide a little bit more insight on how many users there are, how many of them are active, and how many of them are bots and fake accounts versus real accounts. And then during that whole debacle for a couple months, there was a lot of back and forth to the point where, Elon was trying to back out of the deal. I think there's a clause in the LOI or in the agreement that he signed where if he was going to waste time, I think he would have to pay $1 billion. And I think they were going down that route. And essentially, the transaction basically moved forward, and it looks like the acquisition is officially done. Elon's officially the new owner as of this week and has already moved forward in firing the C-level executives and all of the board of directors. Elon Musk is the only board of director standing, and they've started making some massive layoffs. They've already started implementing or coming up with ideas on how to monetize, one being for anyone that has a blue check mark next to their name, or anyone that wants to get a blue check mark and get a verified account, you have to pay $8 a month as like a subscription fee. So that's like one of many measures, one of many things that they're implementing right now. But I think there's a lot of things shaken up clearly within Twitter, and I think even more so in the social media world right now, where he's from the little that I've read so far, Elon's basically put together a personal board and taken on advisors who from his other companies who are helping consult and provide more strategic guidance on how to move Twitter forward as a company. So just to shed some light on the matter. And anyone else, feel free to chime in anything that I might be missing or may misinformed everyone about here.
This is Joanna. Chirag, that's an excellent timeline. I think that, I have seen on Facebook people, kind of posting screenshots of their Twitter accounts that they just closed or deleted. So you're definitely seeing that. I mean, I think people are worried that, kind of what's going to happen to this platform that we've really come to rely on. It's already been such a wasteland in some ways, or not a wasteland, but more like it's been a battleground, right? For so many different ideologies. Now we're worried that it's going to be really going to lean in one direction. So we'll see. I know my team, for example, we were talking about, we're always posting stuff, and my director of marketing said, well, do we continue posting on Twitter? And I said, yeah, I don't know, probably, just because it's still a platform, but I don't know. I mean, I'm actually worried that it'll become this echo chamber for more right-leaning folks, and then we just lost another great platform.
Yeah, this is just going to be interesting to watch and see how it unfolds. So, I guess we can kind of tie this into today's topic. Obviously, we're talking at a certain level, right? But when it comes to fostering innovation, I think it's interesting. So, like, essentially, based on what you said in the timeline, like, so the board's fired, they're looking at new ways to monetize. Like, are we allowed to kind of maybe speculate here? Because I think that's so for paying for the blue check mark, looking at other things, they're probably looking at how other platforms have monetized. Is there maybe some potential for some innovation here as well that cleans it up? I don't know. I don't claim to know the answers on this one. I'm just throwing it out there for food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing concrete. It's just still speculation about the $8 subscription. I don't think it's officially moved forward. I think it's pretty close though. Initially, I think they were talking about $20. They reduced that to $8, so like a subscription model. I think it'll be interesting. Based on what you get for the $8 is anyone that has a verified check mark is prioritized in your messages, in your tweets, or any retweets. Anyone that's messaging you with a verified account, they stand out in particular. I forgot what the other benefits are of having the blue check mark aside from showing that you're a real person. They basically are turning Twitter into, I don't know if it's technically an exchange, but just given a lot of what's been happening in the Web3 space with NFTs and the whole crypto market, there's a huge correlation between, Web3, these futurists that are using Web3 or implementing Web3. Twitter itself is becoming more or less a platform. In fact, Instagram, I think, quickly followed suit and is now officially an NFT exchange where you could launch NFTs through their platform. Twitter, more or less, is kind of doing the same thing. So even for newer technologies, I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of carry forward, right? Because the one thing about Twitter, and along with Facebook and a couple of other platforms, is they have over 1 billion users. So the fact of the matter is they still have, 1/7, 1/6, or however many billion, however many people on there. They still have a huge chunk of the human population using this. A lot of other platforms don't have that, right? That's what gives them the leg up. I mean, that's the reason why it's worth 44 billion, is because of all that data that you can sort through. And, they have an audience that there really aren't that many other platforms that have as large of an audience as Twitter does. So, whatever they innovate, they're under the microscope right now. And it will be interesting to see what they do, just because there's been a lot of waves. It's only been, 4 days under the Elon Musk Twitter rule, so, for the reign. So yeah, we'll see. But they've already been making some waves, and I guess we'll continue to see how things develop just there alone.
It'll be interesting to see, like, if you're CEO of a company and you've got the blue check mark, are you going to pay for it? If you're I don't know, if you're Chris Evans, you're Robert Downey Jr., do you bother or do you say, I don't care? Do you know what I mean? Like, it'll be interesting. If you're BTS, we shall see.
I mean, I'll just speak for my like. I guess it just depends. Like, I would do it, and I'm definitely neither of them. And I'll just say, from the standpoint of like my profile, and obviously I don't have a ton of followers, and I don't qualify for blue check mark under any of their parameters. But I don't know how or why, but my platform has been stolen so many times, or like the Twitter, like for duplicate and fake accounts. And the way that I usually find out is because like somebody will find me on another platform and they will say like, hey, I don't think this is you, but somebody has a duplicate Twitter account with you and they've been sending me like these type of messages. And I look, and then I have to reach out to Twitter and kind of bring it up, and then they take it down, obviously. But that's probably happened to me a couple of times a year for a bit now, and I don't know if whose radar I'm on for that kind of thing. But I would pay it. I feel like there's some other people that would pay it to do that just for that alone. But if it cleaned up the platform from the standpoint of like that kind of stuff, and the whole, if in theory maybe the bots thing and this and that, like that would be helpful. Because I'll tell you, like when it comes to like connecting with people, or like a CEO or prospect or somebody that I want to even get on like on an interview that I just don't have a personal connection to, or otherwise, for like a client or something else, and I'm like, hey, whatever, I forgot who it was, some doctor or some famous, like we've tracked down quite a few people on Twitter through the years. And it would be like, I find it pretty surprising, but a lot of people still, like, they might outsource, like, I don't know, their Instagram. They might outsource, or maybe they don't, but they might outsource their Instagram or Facebook or this or that for like content creation and other things. But I found that a lot of people actually still look at their Twitter, and sometimes it's even their smallest platform, but it's the one that they manage and the one that they actually look at from time to time, and you can kind of get through to them. So I don't know. I've had some luck on Twitter. I kind of like it. I'm totally late to the party on that. So meaning a lot of other people use Twitter in its heyday. I did not. I came on really late, and I used it just for like direct outreach and talking to people, and it was a good way to get through to people. And I find like if somebody wants to get a hold of me for something other than if they know my email or personal phone number, Twitter's a good way. I'm not really looking at too much other stuff, just because the other stuff has so much marketing and bots and just other stuff. Like kind of like it kind of becomes one of those things. So I'll be interested to see if this becomes kind of like a resurgence of Twitter overall, because even like some of the things that they've had or have done, like the streaming, or like, I don't know, didn't they have like Periscope at one point and then it merged with Twitter, or they bought it, or I don't remember what happened there. But it seems like the capabilities for what a lot of the other platforms are doing, they're kind of already there for certain things, not everything, obviously. But I think it's going to be an interesting story. I don't know, especially with maybe some of the business tools or things that they're going to be able to do. This would be interesting. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about innovation.
Yes. Getting back to innovation, I agree with you. So now, in relation to us fostering innovation in our companies, who wants to go first? Like, who wants to go first at tackling it? More thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm happy to go first, Adam. I'm going to have a little bit of an early drop off, but the Twitter for us has not really been a big platform we've utilized, but in a meeting recently in the last few weeks, we've really started focusing on using Twitter a little bit more. And so that's part of the reasons I was excited to hop on here was my first concern is, with the $8, a month, or is ad, are they going to start doing like ad spaces and stuff like that, where there's going to be a lot of other monetizing of Twitter itself and your accounts, I'm not really sure, but being a little bit newer to utilizing Twitter in our firm, I'm kind of just looking forward to some advice from you guys on a good business plan with that.
And so I'm interested overall, Bill, because we're all kind of getting into the Twitter thing. But I'm interested just overall. So you're in a traditional business, law firm, truck accident law firm, great brand, a lot of brand recognition, a lot of other things you're doing. Like what do you as kind of on the marketing side working with Joe? Like what kind of conversations do you guys have around like innovation and like how to stick out? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we've kind of come to, and we've talked about this with you guys before,
Yeah.
and as our key to marketing is through messaging and safety messaging. So instead of going out there and, looking and using Twitter to say, hey, look at us, we're a great law firm that's had $1 billion in plus in recoveries, like a lot of do. We're more out there trying to promote safety messages, safety tips through platforms like this and other companies and resources out there that are doing good work. And in hope in doing that, we're also spreading our own brand. So that's kind of our innovation plan is more that way, because at the end of the day, like we said, if it doesn't generate ROI, if it saves a life, it's worth it for us. And that's more what our marketing concept is based off of. And our use of Twitter, with Twitter, whichever way it goes, at the end of the day, there's going to be millions and millions of people on there. And politically, whatever side you're on, we all want to save a life and improve safety for what we do. So therefore, we still want to use, regardless of what happens, we're going to want to use the Twitter platform more, and use our messaging regardless of who it gets to, because the one thing it's common is nobody wants to get killed by a tractor trailer.
So I think on our end, when we think about like innovation internally here, like, and just outside of Twitter or platform, or like being agnostic of anything outside of social media otherwise, like we're always looking at really how to leverage the platform and how to create a way to get somebody's message out further. So we amplify stories. Like that's our tagline, that's our slogan, that's our line, and that's what we want to be associated with. And that's like, if you look at kind of our model or anything that we're doing, so whether it was the podcast or podcast network, or hosting other shows or distributing other shows, like our goal is to try to take advantage of some type of network effect to be able to kind of have the rising tide or whatever lift all ships, right? Or that, like, that's our ultimate aim. And I think as we kind of go further down the line of like figuring out how to remain innovative, we're always assessing and looking at other models, especially like specifically with whether it's media, whether it's entertainment, whether it's marketing, whether it's the agency model, like all these different things. And I guess our kind of special brewer or our alchemy, like within like Mission Matters and how we grow and how we continue with our value add proposition, is really kind of drawing from, we hope, the best in a lot of different industries. And that's just kind of like, I guess, on the model side of things. Is there anything, I don't know, and by the way, we can tackle this conversation from many different angles, whether it's the model, whether it's technology, whether it's leadership, like there's a lot of different ways to slice it. But just generally speaking, I mean, that's how we attack it from the model side of things. Anyone else want to chime in, either on model or otherwise, or like culture, like just other things that keep them on the forefront of what they're trying to accomplish?
So this is Joanna, and I'll tell you guys, innovation is really, really important at my firm for so many reasons. I think that I've got a small company and I've got to compete with the big boys for staff. So I feel like if they, and it's worked, thus far. Obviously, I have turnover, but really not much. And so, we try and really foster a culture of innovation so that people feel like we're a small but mighty firm doing really interesting things that has a lot of meaning, and we're working with great tools. And I really push really hard here, because people feel like if we're using old tools and they're not able to do kind of new and amazing things, I'm not going to keep them because they're way too talented, they're going to leave. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's kind of the same with my clients. I think that for us, we know that we need to feel like, or our clients need to know, that we are always going to point them in the right direction, not necessarily for the new and shiny, but for the new that could be meaningful to them. This is challenging. It's expensive to be innovative. It takes time. It's expensive in terms of money and time, but I don't know that I have a choice. So, I mean, our tech stack changes maybe every 3-4 years. And then I feel like every couple of years we need a hairy initiative that makes people feel like I'm here and there's exciting stuff happening, but it is expensive and it is tiring.
What about on your end, Bill? Like when it comes to like when you think about you versus maybe some of the other things that you see in competition, just broadly speaking, because the law firm, like just that whole area in marketing, I'm just curious in like your approach on that.
Would you repeat that again, Adam? I'm sorry.
So, like on your end, I'm curious. So,
Yeah.
like Joanna's coming from the marketing aspect and thinking about like new campaigns, new initiatives, and like staying ahead in technology. Like, what do you think like kind of keeps you when you're evaluating competition, what everybody else is doing when you're building the brand? Because I think, by the way, I think Joe and what you guys are doing is just it's a unique brand, and you've been building it for a long time, and it sticks out from your competition. So I'm just curious, kind of like the ethos or where does that come from?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we find in the law, or I have found since getting into the law world, is it's probably more copycat than any other business I've seen or industry. And it's one of those industries where the people that tend to run the firms are lawyers who are also acting as marketers, and also so they just tend to like want to pay the same you know companies that other firms are using. So what I've found for me, innovation work, is I try to look at what all the other firms are using in the companies, and now the social media marketing, the website marketing, you name it, space for the law world, probably the biggest chunk. And I try to find areas that they're not in, or do things that they're not doing, just to be outside or different, to be recognized differently. And again, it's been an interesting learn for me, and it's ongoing and every day. But I think the biggest thing for us has been is, instead of just trying to see what everybody's doing and what's working, it's if they're going right, we're trying to go left, and grab a different audience, different space where the other firms are not in, or going in the direction they're going in, if that makes sense.
Chirag, what are you thinking? Like, Chirag works a lot on the PR of our like day to day. He's in the trenches on all, like PR, like, and a lot of other things in the company, obviously. But what do you say?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Chirag about an email I got from him the other day, or Joe got he forwarded to me about some of the different things in PR wise. In the next week, I need to set up a call.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll get into details on that. I think just to take a step back, like when it comes to innovation, I think in terms of culture and getting your team involved, what I like to do is usually I'll get posed questions. I just throw it right back to them, to the whole team always. And I just ask them, okay, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? And literally, that's just literally my go-to question. I always end up asking, to the point where people come prepared and give me their insights and their thoughts on how to approach things. I'll give you an example. I had our virtual assistant. She was asking me, because we were trying a new initiative. I went to an event, this one real estate conference, and met a bunch of people, and I kind of switched around the follow-up process. I threw it back on, and I told my assistant, I said, like, here are all the business cards, here are all the people that I met. I want you to send out this email message and respond to all of them. And then like a day or two later, she asked me, okay, so what's the follow-up on all these people? Like what do you want me to say? And I switched it right back to her, and I said, okay, well, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Like, I was like, you've been here for over a year now. I need to see how you're thinking and how you're processing this. You tell me, you give me the strategy, you give me the guidance, and you write down the email template that you want me to review and use. And so she went ahead and did it, to the point where I didn't even have anything that I needed to edit. But for me, it was easy to see that she's learning on an ongoing basis, and actually diving into the weeds to think through situations. And it's not just for that. I try to do this on marketing initiatives. I do it for the PR initiatives, kind of like the new one that we just ran. And so we come up with new ideas. Adam and I usually bounce those ideas back and forth, and to the point where we think it's good enough, and then we propose it to our directors, or down the chain of whoever is going to be involved in the process, to just experiment, tinker with it. Sometimes, things are really well done. We've also ran projects in the past that, within a month or two, we've ended up shutting down, just because we realized that, it was a failed experiment. But, I think we are always on our toes. I think there's a point where we just believe in, you always have to try something new, because if you're not innovating, you're going to fall behind other companies, right? And so that's kind of like my sense on that.
And so, kind of just to, I guess, to date this conversation. So, for people that are watching in the future, so we're what, October? Oh, we're November. Excuse me, November. I'm a little late here. 2022. Lots going on in the economy. Not everybody's doing so well right now. Businesses, some of them are definitely tightening some of those budgets and thinking about. There's a lot of talk and a lot of conversation about Q1, and so I wonder, like, what everybody's thinking planning wise, like how does innovation fit into, like, when we're going into, and like especially when we're talking about spend and other things. Like, Joanna, you brought up some good points, like innovation's expensive, right? And it doesn't necessarily always like necessarily pay off immediately, or there's a lot of other benefits too, but like to stay ahead of the competition, a lot of other things, right? Or just stay relevant, right, in our fields. Is how's everybody like planning or thinking for maybe innovation or things like that as we go into possibly a bumpy, let's just say, economy and road in the very near future? Has anybody given that any thought?
I'm spending a lot of time thinking about it, and I actually have a couple of things that I'm trying to figure out what to do with. They're like ideas for new service offerings, and one is pretty big and hairy. And we are really thinking hard about how we're going to get that built, and we're not going to self-fund it. We just don't have the funds. It's too expensive. So we're looking to partner with a couple of clients. In fact, I talked to one today who said, I'd love to be a guinea pig. So if she can pony up some money, it would really, really help. So we're thinking two ways, Adam. We're thinking that we probably have to be even more innovative, because then that's what's going to allow us to survive. On the other hand, we have to be really thrifty. So it's kind of polar opposites in terms of, ideas, but we got to do it.
Spoken like a true business owner that's been through many cycles, Joanna. that's a that's
Oh
a
my
pro
God,
answer,
yes.
and that is a pro answer, and that is the reality of how you stay in business through a 2008 or a 2002, and whatever's coming up next. That's a great points, Joanna. We're kind of in the same boat on that as well. So just like, so when we think about like when we're what we're going into next, and thinking about like the other part is just making sure that we're delivering on our current, so I'll agree with everything you said. Those are all conversations we're having. First off, I completely agree. Not necessarily that we have a big hairy offering that we're looking to help get funded. We're not in that exact situation, but in terms of like thinking about more ways to add value to your clients in an innovative way, regardless of what the route you're going about, staying within your realm of expertise, like, for sure, delivering on, like, continuing to deliver on your value proposition to your current clients, of course, not forgetting them and or letting that slack at all, because you definitely can't do that, right? Staying within our realm of expertise, like we just I'm speaking for us, by the way, when I say that all of these things, I'm not in context, like these are all the conversations we're having. So like, obviously mission matters can't go and do something off brand or go outside of our expertise because we want to explore another profit center or things like that. Like, that's definitely not where we're at in terms of our thought process of how to innovate. So whatever innovation that comes out of this, which I feel like a lot of times when we get into these choppy waters, like many businesses find new opportunities that they didn't realize were there under their nose the whole time, because either they were forced to innovate, it could be monetarily, like revenue, like maybe an old product or something they were doing doesn't, it kind of dries up on them, possibly, or maybe it was just because they were forced to sit down and think and look around and say, what can we do with what we currently have? I can speak for us, like our entire, like, we weren't initially, so go back some years, and there was a couple shaky points in the market overall when we started out as just solely as a book publishing company, and we didn't really have plans on launching a podcast agency or producing shows for other for other hosts or anything of that nature. That all came about because our book sales weren't doing quite as well at a certain point because of the economy just overall. So that wasn't really happening. And we were looking at our overall model and we're like, well, what else can we do? And we had this certain subset of book clients and people that were like, they've been bugging us for a while and like, hey, we want to launch a show too. Like, if you're ever going to do that, like exactly what you said, Joanna, we'll be your guinea pig. Right. And I'm like, so that we had some of those similar conversations. And that's how the podcast agency was even developed and born in the first place. That was a level of innovation for us because we never done it for anybody else. And then you fast forward, years later and that's a big portion of our business and also what we're known for. And now what I like to think we're pretty innovative in that space and some of the things that we do just overall. And I versus maybe some other companies, not putting them down, but just in general, we tend to be on the front end of a lot of things in that podcasting space. But that all came from us having to sit down and think, Joanna, exactly what you're doing right now. That was not planned other than it was thinking about, okay, we're going into some tricky times in the economy. So now that we're kind of going through that same thought process, we're having those same discussions again.
Yeah, this is Joanna. I think it's kind of interesting. So, we talk about how when times get tough, what we do is we have to pivot how we pitch, but we still have to be innovative with our clients. So what we try and do is offer them like maybe high impact, but less expensive services that maybe aren't as polished, for example, but will really help them kind of ride through whatever bumps we have. And then as we start, kind of easing out of whatever bump, then you start layering in the, kind of the more out there, more blue sky thinking. It's tricky to time because you want to stay relevant and you don't want clients to feel like, oh, well, you're kind of the little agency that only does small projects, or you don't want them to also be like, my God, Matrix is always like pushing these blue sky, really expensive projects. You want them to feel like you're relevant. And so like every month you're thinking, okay, what can we offer that's new and different that'll keep them spending money, but also will be really relevant to them so that they're thriving too. It's very tricky, and we're about to go into a very tricky time.
Yeah, I agree with this one. And that's why when I saw you show up to this, this was one of my agenda items, and I was like, who's gonna chime in on this one? So, Bill, anything on your end?
Yeah, so
I don't
it's
want to cut
it's
you off.
it's interesting because I think I'm more of the consumer on the call.
Mm,
But so this year for us in particular was a big year of cutting back, not because we needed to, just because we had a lot of not very effective marketing campaigns and relationships that were established for years prior to getting there. Matter of fact, I think the only thing I have left, on our books that we started with was and we pretty much started about the same time is Mission Matters. And for next year, it's actually so this year's been kind of like a pullback year for us. And next year we're the opposite. We're looking to really expand our marketing and our messaging, but try to be unique and also try to, and I don't know the arena well, but look for marketing campaigns that are very specific to what we're trying to accomplish, but also maybe where we're paying by performance a little bit more than just, volume, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. It does make sense, Bill. And I feel like so on our end too, because obviously we do things as well. So like everything from Facebook ads and everything. And I'm talking about not just for clients. I mean like for us as a company. So lead
Yeah.
gen and figuring out how we're bringing on new clients, of course, because we want to grow too. And so yeah, that's a conversation we have, and that's when we reassess like what spend's happening, like what's bringing in, like even lead sources, lead
Yeah.
conversion, scripts, like everything gets rehauled. And I guess the interesting thing to me, and Joanna, I know you're one to like you have things sometimes pretty, from what I know from these conversations, pretty planned out, and like and so even your responses today, and like every X amount of years you have to have this done, or every like 3 years you might have said like your stack. I'm just curious on if anybody has, if you have, or anyone else, by the way, just in general, like something that you use that just keeps this thought process of innovation like always front of mind. And I guess where this conversation comes, or this question comes from, is when I think about like our podcast agency. So to circle back to my example, like, and how we had no thought of being in that business per se, and we were kind of like forced to, from the standpoint of we had to plan ahead of if book sales were going to continue to be down, right? There's only so much runway if your core product just stops selling. But in my head, I'm thinking like, well, if we kind of had we try to, I'm not saying we do a terrible job and we're getting better at it right every day, but if we kind of had that thought process of innovation in our DNA, or if we were thinking like that on some systematic function or thought process that it was programmed, then man, we might have been in that business a lot earlier because we probably passed. I was just for context, I probably just personally had done, I don't know, 3,000 plus interviews like before we even considered like launching a show for another person. So we probably missed out on hundreds of shows that we could have possibly launched with many of the people that came on that I just personally had interviewed and that would have enjoyed launching the show, just to be straightforward, but we didn't even think about it. So I know that's a long way of asking the question, but that's where it's coming from. Like, man, it'd be magic if we could always, if we didn't have to wait. And when I say we, I don't mean you, I mean like us as a company or myself. If I could keep that program so that I don't have to wait for that trigger of something like we know we're going into a tricky, economy and other things down the line. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any tips on that one? Because I think that's if that could work, that would just seem like it'd be really useful.
So this is Joanna. I got a couple thoughts here. One is I'm in a CEO peer group, and I love this group. If no one does any business with each other, we're all in different industries. And the idea is that, we do check-ins and then we help process issues. But there's always conversation around what's happening in the economy. There's a banker in my group and he'll say, oh, this is what I think is going to happen. And then I've got another person who does a lot of commercial real estate, and she's the one who will say, start hoarding cash. Somebody else will say, no, 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 no. Like, don't worry, there's going to be a glut of real estate. Do not feel, compelled to sign that lease. So between all the people, I feel like it's not perfect, but I feel like there's really diverse perspectives on what's happening in the economy. So that's really, really valuable for me. The fact that I feel like I even have a forum to have that conversation for me is just really, really important. The second thing we do is we have a group kind of pulled from different function at the company, and we have a monthly meeting. And the meeting is kind of unstructured, and it's basically what anyone wants to talk about that's in the way of an environmental scan, like, hey, this new version of this is coming out, we got to have a plan for it. Or, I've been thinking about this, what do you think about that? So it's very free flowing, there's no agenda, nothing has to come out of it, but often things do come out of it, and then that gets sent to another team. So here's a silly example. So like my CTO has been saying for a while, we need to really, oh, I remember this is many years ago, he had attended a couple of conferences on serverless. And so he kept bringing it back to the group, and he said, serverless is going to be big. It's going to be big. We've got to do, cloud native serverless. And so I'm in these meetings, and it took me a while to really understand serverless. And he kept saying, find me a pilot, find me a pilot. So finally, we found the perfect example. It was a pilot. We didn't really know how it was going to go, but with guidance from the CTO, and then we got some really, really firm commitments from a couple of staff that they were really going to double down and make this happen. We got a pilot going. We had our first serverless project. So this group is really high performing. It's some of the best people at the company, some of the busiest people at the company. But I think we all like this meeting because it's unstructured, and literally somebody will just come in and say, I was playing with this thing I want to show you. Or somebody else will say, have you seen what the latest GG from WordPress can do? Like, this is going to put us out of business. We need to look at this. So it's a neat meeting. We do other things, but those are two things that I feel like really keep me on my toes and help me looking at the horizon. And I'll tell you one more thing. If I ever hear from a staff person, oh my God, but we've never done that before. If you come to our office in Crystal City, there's actually outside the door, there's a quote from Kung Fu Panda, and it says, if you only do what you can do, you'll never be more than you are. And I love this quote. And I tell my team on any given day, the Nubis team is pitching things we've never done before. So it doesn't mean, I mean, we're not pitching like, we're going to stand up a building or anything. It's going to be in our bailiwick, but it's not something that we've done before exactly like that. So just, just, just enjoy it and do a good job. So that's what I have to say about that.
That's epic. A Kung Fu Panda quote. I'm in.
If you only do what you can do, you'll never be more than you are. It is such an awesome quote.
I believe that's a mic drop there. I'm in. Well, I just want to open up to the floor. Does anybody have any other, we normally keep these, an hour or so, give or take. Is any other, I'm out of questions on my end, so I just wanted to, I got it all out there. Anybody else got any, words of wisdom, comments, closing comments, or otherwise, other things they want to just throw out there to the group? Well, Chirag, if you wanna take it away.
Yep. Absolutely. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We host these again once a week, and these conversations are recorded. So we'll be sharing, with everyone here and with our extensive network once we edit the content and push it live on all of our channels. So with that, we have our next week's dialogue again taking place Thursday, 4 p.m. PST, November 10th. That one is going to be very interesting. Next week's dialogue is with Facebook's first advisor, Carl Jacobs. He joined Facebook as an advisor when Facebook was only 6 staff. So basically the core co-founders of the company and their first 2 investors. That was pretty much it. And, he helped scale the company, was involved for about a decade when they grew to well over 1 billion users. And along with that, Carl Jacob has launched 3 or 4 companies that have sold to big tech. He sold one company to Microsoft that graduated, I think, almost 25 some odd years ago from USC's School of Engineering program. Developer by trade and business personnel as well. So we're going to do a one-on-one dialogue. Well, not a one-on-one. We're going to do a group dialogue with him, get his background, and bring and invite all of our authors, podcasters to chime into the dialogue as well and ask him questions. So looking forward to next week. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and hope you all have a great evening.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chirag. Thanks, Joanna.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.